I set my moves up strategically. Enemy kings are taken easily. Knights move 4 spaces in place of bishops east of me. Communicate.
Previously, on From the Kitchen to the Controller.
I am a gamer.
I am a gamer. I play on PC.
I play on GameCube.
PSP. I play on PS3.
One more time. You guys are assholes. You said Bible Black. You guys back in your own rooms.
Today I'm going to talk to you about gaming from a female perspective. Most of my viewers are male, and many of you often express surprise or disbelief at my being female, and also playing and discussing video games to the extent at which I do. So for your sake, I figure I'd give you a little insight into what gaming is like for females.
I would love to have the Xbox to play Halo with guys like all the time. Just because I like pink doesn't mean that affects
Hey guys, just a quick little vlog letting you know that I finally got Modern Warfare 3. If you guys want to play with me, my PSN is new headshot. No spaces, no nothing, just new headshot. And yeah, just add me and invite me to a party, or I'll invite you guys and we can play, finally. Yay. And I got a mic, so we can talk on mic if you guys want to. So yeah, hit me up. You guys finally get to add my PSN.
I'm the one with perfect hips. I'm the one with big brown eyes. I'm the one that sees your lies. I'm the one with non-stop legs. I'm the one who never begs. I'm the one that spins at Rex. I'm the one who gives the sex. I'm the one you're looking for. 'Cause I'm a big attention whore. I'm the one that you adore. 'Cause I'm a big attention whore. I'm the one you're looking for. 'Cause I'm a big attention whore. I'm the one that you adore. 'Cause I'm a big attention whore.
Hello, I am Evo, and welcome to the second installment of From the Kitchen to the Controller 3-part video series. In the first video, I explained the concept of female hypoagency and its possible ramifications on the gaming culture and industry. In this second video, I will be extending my examination of female hypoagency by discussing one of the best examples of it I could find.
Have you ever noticed that, with a few notable exceptions, basically all female characters in video games fall into a small handful of cliches and stereotypes? I'm HTArcade, and I run the video web series Feminist Frequency. As a pop culture critic, I look at movies, TV shows, comic books, and, of course, video games. In addition to being loads of fun to play, research has found that gaming can improve problem-solving skills, teamwork, creative thought, and multitasking, and improve hand-eye coordination and enhance perceptual and cognitive abilities. Unfortunately, in addition to all of these benefits, many games tend to reinforce and amplify sexist and downright misogynist ideas about women. In this particular project, which I'm calling Tropes vs. Women in Video Games, I'm going to create a series of 5 videos that look at and deconstruct the most common and the most stereotypical representations of women in games. Video games are an integral and growing part of our popular culture today, and as with all pop culture media, the gaming industry is playing a role in helping to shape our society, either by challenging or more often reinforcing existing values, beliefs, and behaviors. This new video series will primarily focus on tracking 5 stereotypical representations of women throughout the history of video games. I'm going to look at the damsel in distress, the fighting toy, the sexy sidekick, the sexy villainess, and the most common trope in video games, women as background decoration. Last year I released a successful video series called Tropes vs. Women, where I looked at the reoccurring patterns of the way that women are portrayed in the media. A trope is a common pattern in a story or a recognizable attribute in a character that conveys information to the audience. A trope becomes a cliché when it's overused. Some of the tropes I looked at were the manic pixie dream girl, the Smurfette principle, and women in refrigerators. Those last two are extremely common in video games as well. What I try to do in my videos is give people the language to understand and talk about issues of gender and sexism using accessible examples from popular culture. Feminist frequency videos have been used in middle school, high school, and university classrooms. They've been integrated into the curriculum of media studies, gender studies, and law school programs. Parents have even reached out to me saying that they used my videos to spark discussions with their kids about representations of women in the media. So what happens when something in Heart Lake City catches on fire? I guess you'd have to call the boys to put it out. Similarly, what happens when someone in Lego City gets hungry? I guess you'd have to call the girls to bake them something. Each video in this new series will be between 10 and 20 minutes long, with well-researched, in-depth analysis. As with all Feminist Frequency videos, these will be available online for free for everyone and anyone to watch, share, and use. In each video, I'll also be sure to showcase some inventive and interesting games that manage to avoid these harmful tropes. As you might imagine, this project requires an enormous amount of research, because I'm not just looking at a handful of games or just the worst offenders, but at hundreds of games and hundreds of different characters across all genres. This is an incredibly ambitious project because of the scope and scale of the research and production involved, so please donate any amount you can to bring this video series to life. Go check out the Kickstarter page where you can see all the details about how the project is continuing to evolve, including 7 new bonus videos and a classroom curriculum. There you can also pledge a donation to help support this project. Just click on the link in the description below. Thanks for watching this video and for your continued
Thus far, Anita Sarkeesian has collected over $100,000 in funds and has over 6,000 financial supporters. The project has attracted a fair share of publicity, and the reception to her video series has been both positive and negative. According to Anita, she claims to have been the subject of severe online abuse due to her insistence on creating this video series. Since the time that this project was announced, the gaming industry and its community have offered their opinion on the project, and even on Anita herself. While I have very strong opinions on Anita and her ideas, I think my thoughts on her and on her videos can best be illustrated by the following. As infuriating as this video series might be, Anita herself is not the problem. The fact that she was able to build such strong support, with considerable influence and esteem, speaks more on this situation being a problem with public perception as opposed to a single individual's opinion. At any rate, sexism and the objectification of women has been an argument against the gaming industry for years, so this isn't exactly new ground anyone is breaking. However, for those of you who might not be aware of the argument, I'll explain it briefly. The argument suggests that women in the gaming medium are highly sexualized and developed for the sole purpose of stimulating the male viewers. They are relegated into simple objects of lust, with no real purpose or function aside from the gratification they can offer men. This argument has been posited against the gaming industry for more than a decade, and many fault this objectification as the reason why women feel excluded from the culture and industry. In my attempt to break down and demolish this argument, I must first explain a few things. Gaming is an escapism of sorts like most mediums. It exists in a fictional world that is oftentimes an exaggerated reality that has barely any semblance of realism. The people and things that exist inside this fictional world are often represented in a manner which reflects an idealization of power and perfection. This is done to empower the player as he or she interacts with this world. I would say this applies to most mediums, but more so in gaming due to the aspect of interactivity and the premise of player empowerment through an external avatar. The standards and preferences of this idealization will vary from person to person, and in this specific case, from male to female. Therefore, a video game that is male-orientated will feature themes of empowerment and ideals which will reflect male preference. The same basic rule applies to women and female-orientated material as well, with the difference being that the ideals and theme of empowerment will reflect female preference. With that said, the gaming industry and culture has for the most part been a male-dominated environment, as I explained in my last video. Therefore, it's not a surprise to see that a good sum of the content throughout the history of gaming will reflect the preferences of men. Knowing this, some have asked, is this wrong and does this need to change? To which I will say, no. For starters, I would argue that the controversy of sexualization and objectification is more an issue of idealization. In a male-dominated medium, we could expect people and situations to be depicted in a fashion which appeals to men's preferences and, most importantly, their ideals. This idealization is not just exclusive to the portrayal of women, however, but also applies to the portrayal of men as well. For as many depictions of women being beautiful, curvaceous and wearing revealing outfits, you will find just as many handsome men with impossibly muscular bodies in almost completely exposed attire. To me, this says that the depiction of women in gaming has more to do with idealization than anything relating to some systemic, misogynist occupancy that demands female objectification. Interestingly enough, in romance novels, the front covers feature both sexually attractive men and women, which in my view, makes my theory of idealization a more suitable explanation than the argument of sexualization, since romance novels are by large a female-exclusive market. I think that sexualization then becomes an involuntary condition of this idealization, and I think if we were to examine content by gendered interest, we would see that men are as idealized in female-orientated material as women are in male-orientated material. Some might argue this point by claiming the way men are idealized to women is not as explicit or sexualized as the way women are idealized to men. To that charge, I present the following. In 2011, two neuroscientists by the name of Ogiogas and Saigadam studied the secret sexual behavior of more than 100 million men and women around the world by observing what men and women did within the anonymity of the internet. In particular, they studied the sexual preferences of men and women through various online pornography, and what they found was a bold contrast in the way men and women engage and express sexuality. The majority of men had a more direct, visual experience with their pornographic preferences, while the women had a more conservative, emotionally driven experience with their erotic materials. The criteria and manifestation between men and women's sexual preferences might be different, but a difference in methodology doesn't negate the idealization from existing in both men and women. Regardless if it's sexual or emotional, there is no moral high ground in regards to which idealization is better, since it could just as easily be said that men only exist in female genres to satisfy the female's emotional needs, in the same way a provocatively dressed woman might only exist to satisfy a male's sexual needs. I maintain that condemning males' idealization of women, while entirely ignoring the idealization of men in female material, is not only sexist and intellectually dishonest, but painfully hypocritical. Although, that does make one question why one is considered an offense, and the other not even an issue. After all, there does exist a male fan base for Twilight, Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Sex in the City. Yet the male fan base never so much as makes the sound of a pin dropping, let alone complain over the way men are depicted in those shows and films. In fact, there is rarely ever much commotion from men in regards to the manner in which they are idealized by women, so why does it always seem like women are the ones that ever take issue with their idealization?